Right, let's talk about this. I should mute this. Um, I tried on Monday. I tried, and what's weird is I like wrestling. I like it a lot. They had wrestling locally at the Abbotsford Agri Fair on the weekend, and I didn't get to see it. I wasn't feeling well. I was out in the sun too much, and or on Saturday, yeah, on Saturday, I was out in the sun too much, and I didn't end up seeing it, which is regretful. But at the same time, these things happen. Um, and that's your local BC wrestling, and support it as much as you can, boys and girls, because independent wrestling is important. Um, and these guys are really wrestling for the fun of it, not for money. So I try to watch Raw on Monday, and I haven't tried to watch an entire episode of Raw in it's got to be over a year. I'm not kidding you. It's got to be over a year. It's 3 hours, man. It's 3 hours, and when you've been watching wrestling for over 30 years, and there's a pattern, it's so hard to go. Yeah, I'm gonna invest 3 hours of my life tonight in this show, entertain me. And what do they bring out first? Roman Reigns, and I'm like, okay, all right, okay, all right, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. So they have this clumsy. To me, the promo was clumsy, and I'm still trying to figure out why Roman again is getting the title shot at Brock Lesnar. They had their big match at Mania. Nope. They had their big match at the greatest Royal Rumble. Nope. And now they're having it again. And the crowd was not into it at Mania, which was what we heard through the dirt sheets that the crowd wasn't into it at Mania, which is why they didn't give it to Roman then. So what they want is they want a crowd that's really happy to see Roman Reigns win the title. He won't be winning it in BC because when I've watched live in Vancouver, the crowd hated the match, hated Roman, and there were a lot of fans leaving early, which people are like, well, that happens at wrestling. Not at events I've been to. That was the first time I've seen it in that number. There was a lot of fans getting up and going, well, we're leaving because Roman's in the ring, which is too bad because he was against Elias, and Elias is gold. So what worked on the show this week was Elias making Lashley entertaining. That's not easy. It's not. It's not. And Lashley's a big, talented guy, but he desperately needs Paul Heyman as his mouthpiece so he can be a badass, because he's not. He's not. He's a nice guy, and he's just not intimidating when he speaks. Which Big Show kind of had that going on to some extent too. I think what hurt Big Show was that he was a nice guy and he was willing to do the job. So he was willing to lose to a Spike Dudley. He was willing to lose to guys, and I think that hurt him. I think the selfish wrestlers that say, I'm not pushing him. I think those are guys. Those are the guys that stay at the top the longest. And I hate to say that because when you have a wrestler who's willing to put other guys over and willing to maybe take that shot so that he can make somebody else, a bigger star, that's admirable. That's absolutely admirable. And Roman's done that. And I'll say this about Roman Reigns. He hasn't had the title in a long time, but he's always in that main event picture. So coming out of Lashley beating Roman, what do we have? Well, now Roman's in a seemingly pointless feud with Elias that's entertaining, but Roman is getting a shot at the title. And again, and there's all these other guys who are really good wrestlers that don't get elevated. This is where I have a problem with Brock Lesnar as champ. Brock Lesnar being champ as long as it is, it's to make sure that he beats CM Punk's run, so CM Punk doesn't have this bragging right that he has the longest title reign. So Lesnar's been longer, though he hasn't fought anybody. He's fought Roman, and yeah, it's been kind of sad. I mean, if and then there was that feud with Goldberg where each match lasted 30 seconds. It it's hard to watch, and I ended up tuning out. I didn't last. I didn't make it. And now the ratings that came out for Raw have the main event with Ronda Rousey drawing poorly. Yes. See, Ronda Rousey gets a lot of mainstream attention because of her time in UFC. But wrestling crowds, and this is just my honest opinion, I love women's wrestling. I think it's fantastic. I think some of the best wrestlers in WWE are women's wrestlers. I don't see women's wrestling being bought as the main event. I really don't. And I expect that when this Evolution pay-per-view, why did you have to name it after a group that had Batista, Ric Flair, Orton, and Triple H in it? That's a weird name for a group for a pay-per-view. You don't see like WWE prevents Four Horsemen. Anyways, it just Evolution. When the women come out and they do their thing, I don't expect that pay per view to perform well. And it kind of got driven home again last night and just overall. Women's feuds don't last very long. Women switch sides way too easily and for no reason. Anytime that women are a tag team, you know they're going to turn against each other. It's and I understand that happens with the men too, but as a for instance, you see Sasha Banks and Bailey, and they're a tag team not because they're best buddies, but because it's this part of the storyline where eventually I think they're going to have a match, eventually. And then you look on the men's side of the card, and you've got Sheamus and Cesaro, who are two fantastic talents in their own right, get thrown together as a tag team, and they make it work. The Bar's been together for a long time. They're a really solid tag team. They're very entertaining, and they make it work. And that in a nutshell is why women's wrestling and men's is different. Um, and it was brought up on, I want to say it was on What Culture, where they mentioned how the women are all whiny heels or just big baby faces, and there's a lack of real characters. I kind of agree with that. I really do. I think there's a lack of characters on TV. Notice I said on TV. Why? Because on September 30th, wrestling's coming to Abbotsford. And I went into the pre-sale and I got tickets today, and I'm all excited. And I didn't get the cheap seats either, because I like to have a really good view of what's going on in the ring. I picked a fifth row, because first row you're too low down. You can't really see. About fifth row, you're above the people on the floor. I thought about floor tickets, but again, being a shorter guy, floor tickets don't always work for me, and you don't get a great view of what's going on in a wrestling ring when you're on the floor and the ring's up here. So by being at the fifth row, I should be at level with the ring, and I should be able to make eye contact with wrestlers, which is fun. And we'll make sure we get there early, because the last time we saw wrestling in Abbotsford, it took us about an hour to get in the door, because they really didn't plan that out very well. And they had a separate lineup for women and for men. Now, if you've ever been to a wrestling event, you'll know there's a lot more men than women. So that being taken into account, we'll be there early. Because we have to be there early. Because I'm not missing a match again. But it's weird, because here I am shelling out about $140 on wrestling tickets. And I don't even think about it. I'm like, yep. I know we're not awash in money right now, and you know, August is going to be a little tighter than July, but you know what? I have to see it. It's down the road. I have to see it. And I talked to my wife beforehand, and she said, "Yeah, we'll go." And so we'll just budget everything else in, and we're going. We're going to go and see some wrestling. And it's weird, because here I am talking about the product on TV and it doesn't work. And yet when I have a chance to see it live, when it's a house show, I'm like, I can't wait to go and see this. What's weird is there's locals, a lot of Vancouver and just BC BC fans in general, who want a Raw or a SmackDown or a pay-per-view in Vancouver. And that would be fun, but the tickets would be a lot more. If it's Raw or SmackDown, you might actually be getting less wrestling. Yes, you're on live TV, and it's broadcast everywhere, and maybe if you have the right sign and you're right, right spot, you're on TV and you're immortalized. But I honestly think I'm more excited about a house show than I would be if it was Raw or SmackDown. Because the current product, other than Miz and Daniel Bryan on SmackDown, which is pure gold, but really it's, I don't know, it's just kind of middling. It's sort of like, I remember they asked Jinder Mahal. There was an interview with Jinder Mahal. I think it was 6 months ago, where they asked him about wrestlers that aren't being pushed and how he feels about that, and he said, "Oh no, they seem to be, they're pushing the right guys, and I've had the right attitude, and that's why I got in the title picture. And yeah, I don't have the WWE title right now, but I'm gonna get back into it because I'm still working hard, da 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 da." And I've had that in the back of my mind because now here we are months later, and he's stuck in whatever this is with Kevin Owens and Braun Strowman, and there's no title in the picture. So it's kind of weird because when he said it, I thought, dude, you're getting shoved down the card. But live, who knows? It'll be a Raw show, so I expect Jinder to be there because of the fact that he's very popular locally, being Canadian. I would expect him to be higher up the card than he necessarily might be somewhere else, and it'll be fun. And the last time around, Vegas stole a lot of the stars, so there won't be an event in Vegas at the same time, I don't think. It's on a Sunday, which works for me, and I think it'll be a very enjoyable event. So September 30th. And again, the weird part to me is this. I'm excited about going to see it live. I can't watch it on television. So there in a nutshell is to me their problem. They have tremendous wrestlers, probably the best roster they've ever had from top to bottom. They don't have that megastar. They don't have The Rock, Stone Cold, because they're not making megastars anymore. Because of what they call 50-50 booking, which is you win this week, I win next week. Because they don't get anybody on a big streak, they don't make anybody look really good, doesn't really matter. Look at Asuka on the women's roster. Asuka comes in with this huge winning streak from NXT. The first thing they did, kill it, and now she's just another star. So the roster is stronger than it ever was. I don't think the writing is as strong as it used to be. And I think that there's this obsession with not making anybody else look like a jobber or an opening night guy or open. Like, I'm really interested to see what they do with Drew McIntyre. McIntyre looks like $1 million, but he always did. McIntyre seems to have the right attitude and the right everything. He has the look of a champion. But they got Adam Cole down in NXT, and Adam Cole and Drew McIntyre look very similar, not the same, obviously, but similar. They have similar styles, but Adam Cole doesn't have an accent, and Drew McIntyre does. And of course, the rumor's always been that Bucky Kevin backstage doesn't like guys with accents or girls with accents, and that's why Becky doesn't get pushed. So I'm very interested to see what happens when Adam Cole comes up to the main roster, which he will, and he'll be fantastic. And see, does he get that push? Does Drew get that push? And it's a silly reason to decide who is or isn't at the top. It really is. It's a strange thing. But, and I would imagine the main event will feature probably Roman Reigns. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's Roman Reigns against Elias again, because Elias can get a crowd to boo him or cheer him just at his whim. And that is a talent that very few wrestlers have. So there you go. I'm going to Abbey to watch I'm in Abbey, but I'm going to watch the show in Abbey, and yet I'm not excited with the TV content from Raw. What do you guys think? What's missing? What there just seems does it? I think it needs to go back to 2 hours. I think 3 hours is too much. I think if it went down to 2 hours and every segment felt important, and you're not just showing reruns of what we just saw 5 minutes ago, and if an opening match was an opening match, and if it wasn't over 2 segments, 3 segments, keep all those commercial breaks during a wrestling match, really kill it. Honestly. I remember the first time there was a wrestling break during a wrestling match, and I said, "Are you serious? This shouldn't happen. Not on Raw, not on SmackDown. Should never happen." But again, that's not my call, and the ratings are what the ratings are. They tend to fluctuate, and TV ratings are down all over, so I'm not getting into that argument. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and hey, I didn't forget this channel. I just had a lot of hockey stuff, and July was very full. Very full month. So there you go. Again, let me know your thoughts. I'll talk to you again soon.